everyone. Welcome to Make It Make Sense with Monique Pressley. I'm your host, Monique Pressley. Very thankful to be here with you today. We have great content for you. As always, if this is your first time joining, welcome. It's our pledge that we will hear. Dial down the noise, dial down the rhetoric, get rid of all of that bickering, and give you the facts, the who, what, where, when, why. If there's commentary, it will be based in fact and it will be data driven. Today, we are thankful to have with us again. I mean, if there's a way to be full of integrity and compassion and a rock star and on the ground in the middle of a war, this guest has figured it all out. We have with us again independent journalist Terrell Starr. He's going to be giving us some up-to-the-minute updates about what is going on in Ukraine so that we can try to make it make sense. He was with us a week ago and we were so blessed by all of the information that he was able to share, not just about the war generally, but how it relates to us as people of color, as global citizens, as humans. And I'm going to welcome him again. I know that he has already made a request, so let me click him in. Hi there.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? That's the question.
Better than I was the last time I spoke to you.
No missiles bombing bases minutes from where you are today.
No. We're far away from that, boy. That was a tight situation for real. So I'm sorry that I had to bounce like that, but I couldn't help it. So that was real.
That's the reality of what you were in. And you know, of course, we didn't want you to leave us that quickly, but we were thankful, first of all, for the time that we had with you. And then second, you showed us for real what life is like day in, day out on the ground. Guys, put some hearts up on the screen, please. I see them already, but I just want more of them for our own who is on the ground and doing God's work and representing us so well. I don't care what them fools say. You see me on Twitter fighting. I'm like,
here's the thing. I tell people, when I get big and whatever, like, I want you on my retainer. I want killers on my legal team. Like you like the favorite lawyer, whatever. So listen, you are at the center of everything. So I mean seriously, I just feel so fortunate that you found me interesting to talk to, because I watch you all the time, and I watch you to learn how to argue.
Well, you're doing okay. You're doing your best. I've been following you recently, and my producer and I get quite the giggle when sometimes you're like, look, you get what you get. Now you following me, I'm not following you. And I'm like, yes.
I don't, yes. But here's the thing, right? This is what trips me out. So first of all, and I know you're gonna ask me questions, but I just have to say this, it's that, I was in this country before it was cool. Yeah. And I found something because I loved it. I was the first Black person to get a degree in Russian, East European, Eurasian studies from the University of Illinois. And I also spent years here on the ground, and I find things that I'm interested in. I've developed my own style. I made a choice not to fit in. I left my job at the Root to devote myself full time to this before I knew that a war was going to happen. So now what you're seeing is just an intersection. And so my social media has just quadrupled and just grown. But I really was not any different than I am right now. I just have been spending years doing this, and just at this particular moment, I've just caught fire. But it's just really peculiar to me how people, I've run into, like this weird jealousy thing. And so when you see me kind of going back and forth, I'm just kind of getting used to these folks. And the best thing I'm doing is ignoring them, because I spend so much of my energy helping people. I mean, because I'm in a kind of resting place right now, because I spent more than a week trying to help people go back and forth across the country, like evacuating people. And we could talk about what it is to be a refugee here. Because I mean, listen, I literally have the experience, and it's exhausting helping people. And And I have a lot of stories about that, including some cowboy pulling a gun on me. I haven't told you about that. And I mean, just in this environment, and I just don't see how people find the time to hate. I don't
Well,
get it.
but that's what shows the difference between who's serious and who's not. And I remember that one guy, I do have real questions, but I just think it's important for people to understand, the people, not just you, but anyone who's there on the ground reporting, these are humans. You all are human beings in a war zone reporting on war, but also you are part of the story, because I want to know how journalists are being treated. I want to know how our folks are being treated. Those are stories that matter, and you have firsthand accounts. So when I saw that guy saying what he was saying, I said, "Oh, poor Sugar Wugger, poor Sugar Wugger." So, I mean, he is beside himself that being white and male and educated and affluent in America doesn't carry you such that a Black man with experience and knowledge and education who is on the ground won't get attention. Like the concept of sharing the stage of even a war was upsetting to him. And I hate that he was from Texas, and that's why I'm not calling his name. But if you could just explain to us first, you have explained on Twitter the difference between a reporter who's just reporting balls and strikes, here's what happened on this day, and an opinion journalist, which is what you are. What's the difference?
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, here's the thing. I think that so I'll tell you the difference, and I'll talk about me. So the difference, so you have the AP, and this really deals with being educated about media consumption. Ultimately, we as citizens, and we're talking to an American audience, but in particular, like, we are ultimately responsible for the media we consume, and it is up to us to curate the type of media that informs us. And so, when I first started off, I was kind of like the regular type of reporter. I was at a local NPR station. It was a job I took when I was in my second year of graduate school at the University of Illinois, and I covered the City Hall meetings, where a lot of journalists kind of get their start. And so I was just, hey, this is what happened. I'm condensing a 3-hour conversation into a 5-minute or a 3-minute segment, usually 3 minutes. And so I did that. And so those are the people that work at your local newspapers, the folks who their job is to take information, bring it to the public in the most kind of clear-eyed way possible, devoid of any of their own kind of viewpoints. The traditional newspapers have columnists. So, the AP, for example, those folks, that's what they do, and that is perfectly fine. Right. And I started off that way. Now, what's interesting is I came in during a time where there was an intersection of digital media and print media, where that print age was just kind of giving in to the social media age. This is about 2008, 2009. And when interestingly enough, after I finished my Fulbright, I couldn't find a job in international affairs. So I had all these degrees, all this education, all this experience, couldn't find a job.
Yes, he did just casually drop in that he was a Fulbright scholar. Catch it.
I mean, it's just what it was. Like, I did my Fulbright and couldn't find a job. And so I went into Black media. I started off at Radio 1, and I wasn't covering Ukraine or anything, but just in the back of my mind, I was just always interested, kept it up a little bit. Got discouraged at points thinking like, man, I'll never do this, but I kept honing my skills in Black media. And I took whatever opportunities I could and just ran 10 miles with it. And so if even when the editors did not require reporting, I insisted on doing it so I can hone my skills. And, I came of age during the Trayvon, the unfortunate death of Trayvon, killing of Trayvon Martin, murder, which I would consider of Trayvon Martin. And so that's when, when you look at digital media and how Black reporters are operating in that space, to me, in many respects, there wasn't a quote unquote objective way to think about what this man did to Trayvon. It just wasn't, right? This
Right.
man hunted him down and killed somebody.
Right.
But that's what it was. And you have to
Right.
call that out, like what it is. I call that being responsible, being a responsible journalist, right? So,
Right.
you know, and so, but what was interesting about working with Black folk and Black media, like there's a tradition in Black media where we had our own ecosystem of what's opinion and what is kind of just kind of hard news driven without opinion. And so I never worked within these traditional white frameworks, right? And so what that meant was that I never gained that kind of AP type of mindset per se, because I spent much of my time working in Black media where we can kind of freestyle a little bit. And then I worked in, then from there, I went to Fusion, which was under Univision. And so there was like a people of color type of place. And that gave me even more of a license to kind of freestyle a little bit. And I was a national political reporter in 2016. After that, I covered military for a half a year. And I just decided that I didn't want to write about war machines all the time, like some kid that was just fascinated with things that kill people. That just really drove me. I mean, that, but then I went, because I transferred to the Root, because there was I was at a military site under the same umbrella where the Root was. And so with Danielle Bell, and then I became a national political correspondent. And my first story, interestingly enough, was I wrote a profile on Stacey Abrams, and so basically I did, but during that time, working at the Root, particularly between 2017, 2019, where it was kind of at its height, like its zenith, so to speak. Yeah. I always had a voice in my reporting, because I think as Black folk, we had to speak up for ourselves in ways that white media didn't, really, like because we were also fighting these white mainstream media narratives. And also, and I think too, it had nothing to do with whiteness. It's just that I think as Black people, once we control the messaging, I think because it's Black, people consider it non-objective, right? And so that's the thing. If it's Black, you're putting yourself into it, even though the mainstream media has always been the white man's diary. It's always been that way, right? But when we put our voice into it, it's a question of, are you too close to the story? Are you too close? And mind you, I have plenty of colleagues in Ukraine who consider themselves straight-laced journalists, and white people in America, like traditional white journalists, would say that they are editorializing their content, even though their doggone country is being bombed and being destroyed by Putin. And so they're not supposed to have the agency to report on what they're seeing, and their family members are being attacked and being killed, right? So it's the same thing with me. So with me, I feel like I'm doing nothing more in my reporting than giving people I'm giving the Ukrainians the voice and the dignity and the respect that I would want.
Right. Absolutely. And that's critical. And you said exactly what it is. We are so used to, in this country, with mainstream media, for real, all of the stories, even which stories are reported on at all, it's coming through a lens. And so then when we choose our own stories and we speak them in our own voice, and some things, up is up and down is down. There's a war. Russia's responsible for the war. There's no negotiating on that.
Right.
And so reporting that is not editorializing. That's fact. That's fact-driven reporting.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so here's the thing, right? So what you see here, I'll tell you one thing about being a war reporter, and again, I never thought that I would be calling myself a war reporter. It just feels odd, but I'm here. And first I have to say, when I go home, and I think that for your viewers, it's important to know, I'm going to go home and talk to somebody, because what I've seen and what I'm experiencing, and just in this way, it's just not healthy.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want my writing to be such a commodity in which it misses the humanity and the lack thereof of what's happening here.
Yeah.
So, because I mean, literally, that first time the two of us spoke, in less than 24 hours, I saw it was that missile strike. And then a half day before, I saw somebody get lit up with an automatic weapon.
Yeah.
That is not a healthy thing to see. Okay, like it just isn't. And so it took me about, I don't know if I told you the story about how I went paranoid the third day.
No.
Okay, I'll tell you because I want to get because it's all connected to what you're asking me. So the third day, and I don't know if this is the right medical term for it, but I'll tell you what I experienced. So I literally was looking out of my 11-story window, and I thought I saw a brigade of Russians doing building sweeps. Now, what was actually happening was that it was just a whole bunch of people who are hanging out outside, who had no business being outside because we were under martial law and a curfew. And so what happened was that somebody took one of those laser pointers, and pointed it at my window, and I just went, and I was like, oh my God, like I just lost it. Yeah. And so I took my friend he has a knife collection, and so what I did was I reached and got a knife that I thought was a real knife, but it was just some toy knife. Now, in my brain, I'm thinking that I'm going to be able to stop a whole bunch of Russian troops coming in with automatic weapons with my little toy knife. I didn't realize it was a toy knife, but I'm literally creeping around in the dark because I turned out the lights with this knife, thinking I'm bringing a knife to a gunfight, a fake
Even
knife.
Even if it was a real knife, the fact that you thought you were going to do something with the knife.
But I was out of my mind.
Right.
Okay, no, I really was. Like, I and so I called my friend, and it took me, and he kind of talked me out of it. But in addition to not showering regularly and also losing your appetite, this is what this environment does to you. So just imagine you are constantly hearing sirens going off because they're airstrikes. And then you're hearing explosions 15 kilometers, basically, 15, 20 kilometers away. You're constantly hearing this. Just imagine just, just constantly.
Yeah.
That's what people are dealing with. And so I want people to feel that. I want people to understand that this is what we deal with, right? And so when I talk in the first person, well, first of all, and I guess I got to come call a little bit, like everybody, when I speak in first person because it works, and most people are not interested in me enough to put themselves to be a part of the story. They just aren't, right? They aren't interested in me enough. They're not good enough storytellers to really make it make sense. So my style of storytelling, it is about, I do involve myself in the story. I'm in the story, but it's an effective way to talk about what's happening, right? And so that's why I do it. It's effective. And so but I take people through everything that I experience just because most people are not in this environment. And here's the thing, they never should.
Never should. And we pray never will. But because you are there and because you take us on the journey with you and on the ride with you, it's a difference between looking at something that's happening elsewhere and being able to have a human connection, which creates compassion, empathy, understanding. Even because people at home care about gas prices, but when they follow you and they see, oh no, people are going through PTSD, people are going through complex traumatic stress disorder. It's not just one event, it's event after event after event. People are watching children, mothers, grandmothers die who are civilians in war. So I appreciate every last bit of what you are sharing. And I told you before, we're praying for you. When you got off, when you ran off, when you had to go, we prayed on the live right at the end for your safety. So I'm thankful you're still here. But I also want to say before I ask my first and might be my last question, you can talk to somebody now. You might not want to unload it all now because you still have to function, but the world is virtual. So if you have to reach out and touch somebody, I got resources. There's people on here who are in the replies saying, do it now, because just like we're talking, you can have a combo and maybe get some coping tips. So I'm just going to drop that in your thought process.
I appreciate it. No, I appreciate
Late
it.
one night,
Let me tell you
early
about what happened during that last trip. So basically, So what's happening here is the Russians had a corridor that's about 60 miles, like 40 miles or so. Now I think it's like 60, headed to Kiev. And so we were in the north. So we were like far from them, but it was close enough to where we needed to retreat and go elsewhere, because I was with a territorial defense. I was with a ragtag group of people. I wasn't with the official Ukrainian military, right? So we had to seek cover. And so we ran from that area, right? And so what's interesting is that the first family that me and Andre took to the border was from that area that we escaped from. Mm-hmm. And so they were hiding in a basement for 3 days because they're in the suburbs, you know, so they have houses there. Because in Kiev it's like all up high rises. Yeah. And so they were in the basement for 3 days. And so so Andre went and got them. Like, first of all, another stressor here is that road trips that take 8 hours now take a day or two.
Yeah.
Because you're going through various checkpoints, mm-hmm. and all of them manage the checkpoints differently. Sometimes the checkpoint shuts down and you got to wait 8 hours till it reopens again. And then you got to pray that somebody's going to offer you housing, because it's not, you can have money all you want, but if nothing is available, you have to hope somebody opens up a room, or if they have an extra apartment. Who has an extra apartment? I'm very fortunate that along the way I found people who did because of my social media following on Twitter. Yeah. But anyway, this family was hiding in the basement. You know, it was mom, twin daughters, grandmother. When we got them, they were following us around like ducks and praying that we would, like, just hoping that we would never separate from them. And just so basically you're dealing with these traumatized people, and you have to hold yourself steady because they are not trying to, but their trauma, like, their energy comes to you, and they're not trying to do it, but it's just, that's just what it is. You know, it's just what it is. And so when that's the irony of me just running from that area. Like, when we said I gotta go, we got a family like right from that area, and the man had to stay behind, because if you're a man between 18 and 60, they expect you to stay here and fight. Yeah. So, and then with me, with the United States, I got the passport privilege, so I can kind of come and go across the border without a problem, which is another issue, which I could tell you about, which is the difference between me and just say, you know, I'm a foreigner just like everybody else. I'm not Ukrainian, but I'm American, which makes me different from being from the continent, from being from India, etc., right? Or the Caribbean, wherever. So that's a whole nother story. But
didn't you also help somebody get to their cancer treatment? Tell us that.
Yeah, so that was the other day. So yeah, this is a woman. Her name is Arena. I'm actually going to interview her for my podcast tomorrow. So she had it's a particular type of cancer. So the story with that is that the family, the hospital asked her to leave so that they could treat people who are wounded during the war. So that was the setup. And so so what I did was I have connections with. So I'm gonna tell you how the refugee how the process works, because I'm like really involved in it, and I know it like pretty well. So basically, what happens is that depending on where you are in Ukraine, you may or may not be able to get on the road. So, for example, the students, you hear a lot about a lot of African students in this city called Sumy. Okay, so the Russians have that place surrounded. So it's like, to be blunt, there's nothing that I or anybody can do until the Ukrainians liberate that city. They're just stuck, right? Yeah. It's nothing that can be done for them or anybody in that city. Yeah. So because basically there are corridors that the Russians are supposed to honor, but they aren't. So they're just literally stuck there, and I'm keeping my eye out on them, and so I'm trying to help. I'm like, now I have the bandwidth. I'm working on getting these students out to make sure that they don't face any kind of discrimination or anything like that. But this cancer patient, she was in Kiev, so she's easy. So all we had to do was go to her place, pick her up, and the kid and the husband and the mom, and just get on the road. So that was easy, right? The hard part is getting them across the country. And so again, because there are no accommodations, so she has a window of basically 2 months before she gets the necessary treatment that she needs. And so she was just scared and she didn't know. And so I knew I knew a group of Lithuanians who just reached out to me through Twitter. So all the people who I'm dealing with and helping them is through Twitter. And they're saying, Terrell, if you get them there, we'll take them. You get them to this place, we'll take them. I just need to get them to the border. So Andre, my good friend, he's like the hero too. Like he was doing all the driving. I can't, again, I'm not driving because I'm a brother and I'm dealing with all these types of things. Like it's dangerous, literally dangerous for me to drive for a lot of reasons. Because again, one person pulled a gun on me when I was en route. Like I could tell you that's a side story, but let me finish this story. But basically, we had to, so on the way, somebody reached out on Twitter and said, Terrell, if you get to this particular town, my sister will host you. She has a free apartment and the whole family can stay there. Who has a free apartment? Okay. Who? So basically we had a free apartment for basically a day and a half. And they gave us food, fed us everything, and they refused to take money. All right. Because their whole thing is this is just about helping the war efforts. And so if it wasn't, we got them there. And so it costs, even though they gave us a free housing and food, you got to pay for gas, food along the way. And that's the thing. Everybody doesn't have that. And so people who have been giving money to me, I've spent my own money helping these people. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so I've been very blessed and very fortunate that people have been very generous. And I use that money to help people, whether it is, food or whether it's just kind of like regassing up. And it matters because so many people don't have that. So when you say people are having a hard time getting to the border, this is a cash economy. It's not like you can Venmo or Cash App people here because those apps don't apply here in Ukraine. Yeah. And now I can only.
And so how do you even get? I heard that for some they did get some government subsidy. That doesn't last for very long. But how do they even receive it? Does that like come to their bank accounts or?
Are you talking about I don't know. It depends if you're talking about the Ukrainians or if you're talking about once they get to a border. Because once they get to a border, then there is some charity group, and they usually work with a government because so basically, like the way that Europe works, they have a lot of socialized things that kind of more progressive people are trying to get in America. So this woman with the cancer patient, we got her to Lithuania, and the Lithuanian government is covering it.
Okay, good.
Because the way that and that's the interesting thing about these particular refugees. So all Ukraine borders all these European Union countries, and they're Eastern Europeans, and they're like, okay, you're just our straggling brother or sister or whatever. We gotta take care of you. We got like, come on, y'all, just come on. Like, so it's like they're like family, and so that's the reason why the Ukrainians are being received that way because they're like this big bully Russia is messing with you. You come over here, we got you. That's how they see each other, and so when they get over to these other countries, they're using their accounts and taking care of them that way. What the Ukrainians are doing is just they're just getting free like trains to get to certain parts of the country. That's what they're doing. Now, what if you can't get on the train? So with one family, I forgot it was another family I helped out. So another family reached out to me. A Ukrainian woman in America said that her parents are in a town called Terrell, which is 2 hours away from Lviv, which is like the capital of Western Ukraine, so to speak. And so I knew a family that can house these parents for a night because like the government can get you to one point, but getting to the border is another thing. So they still need logistical support, and that's the issue right now. And so you have all these people who it's not like everything is centralized, you know what I'm saying? And so people are just getting mobilized and organized on the ground, which is why it's a little difficult to get like a concerted effort because it's not like there's a website where people can say, okay, we're going to, if you can't get a train, you can get a car. It's just individual people doing it. And that's what makes it taxing. And so with this family that we took, like the cancer patient, we got them to Lviv, and that was easier because the Lithuanians had 3 charter buses, and they have these buses every day, and they take the Ukrainians through Poland and to Lithuania to the capital of Vilnius. So that's what they do. But here's the thing, you have to know that this is even available, and most people don't. And so that's why I use my platform and say, yo, this bus is going to be here at this particular time. All you got to do is get there. And so much of what I do is just providing the information.
Okay,
because
one second. I got to do a quick commercial on your behalf. Guys, I see you in the comments. We've pinned the Cash App. Yes, he does have other means that you can support and donate. I couldn't use the button where we do it on here because it's not a nonprofit organization where we could do it through Instagram. But if you go to his pinned tweet on Twitter, Terrell J. Starr on Twitter, go to his pinned tweet. It's listed there, all the different ways that you can donate. So as soon as we're finished here, then go do that if you can't use the Cash App that we have pinned below. All right, that's our commercial break. Go ahead.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So basically to finish it up, it's like the way that things are working here on the ground, it's a bit chaotic, so to speak, because, and it's not chaotic because people are disorganized, it's chaotic because it's war. And also there's an information factor. So a few weeks ago, I didn't have the bandwidth to do what I'm doing now because I was doing something more military. When I was literally talking with you the last time, right? Yeah. So I was with people who was doing more I was with guys who are armed. And so that's a very different mindset from doing stuff at the border. You get what I'm saying? And people didn't realize that I was so far away from the border, I couldn't help. And so the reason why I was able to switch from doing the kind of armed engagement thing at checkpoints versus what I'm doing now is that Andre's unit, his volunteer unit, was basically disbanded. And so I've been following him for a story. And so the mission changed. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. Because, you know, when you think about, you know, our folks, here's the thing, like it's unfortunate, but in many instances, you know, you have these students that come here, and I'm still learning about what it means to be a refugee and to take people in these kind of crisis situations. But to me, if the objective is to let everybody out, it shouldn't matter if you're African, it shouldn't matter if you're Ukrainian or what, like because everybody's going through the same exit, you know? Everybody's going through the same, because the goal is to get these people out. But the main thing is they are focusing on women and children, and I understand that because those are the first people who are liabilities in the war. And elderly people, they're the ones that are quick to die of malnutrition. I mean, because kids have died of malnutrition here because they can't take care of themselves.
But what have you, now that you're closer to it, what have you learned of whatever disparities there are from the stories we were hearing and are still hearing about the way students are being treated, about people of African descent, how they're being treated? What have you seen?
Okay, so there definitely is a difference. So when you go to the border, there is a line. There is a foreigner line. It's black and brown people, basically, right? The foreigner line is supposed to be anybody.
He's a freelancer, Ed. I'm sorry. I see a friend asking who is in money management. Ed, he's a freelancer. DM him. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So you have this border, and you see black and brown people on one end. The first family I escorted, I'm telling you, it's really strange. So the guy looked at me. It was me, and then it was a African brother next, you know, like in front of the line. So you know how black people do. We get we like, yo, it's you. So we dapped up or whatever. He was from Ghana. Mm-hmm. Now, he was in the Ukrainian line. I know I was in the Ukrainian line to escort this Ukrainian family. He was in the Ukrainian line because he had a Ukrainian wife, a white one, like a Ukrainian wife. And so she knows how to navigate the shenanigans, okay? Because her whole thing is, I am not leaving my man here. Like, she was just like, he's coming here with me, blah, 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 right? That was her attitude.
Yeah.
And so So basically, you had two black. I had passport privilege. He had the Ukrainian wife kind of privilege that helped because he couldn't have gotten through there by himself. Like he wouldn't have. He just wouldn't have. Right. So
even
you
though
got
he's
these other.
not required to stay, because it's only Ukrainians who are required to stay.
He would have been in that. He would have been basically in the black and brown line. That's what I call it. That's what I call it. Because I mean, really, because the thing about it is, and you see, so for example, when I was at the border, some of the people who I saw, they were not flat out racist per se, but you can like their tone was really screwed up. You know, Ukrainians here, Africans, and all these other folks like on this one end, like he was just very what's the word for it? Extremely rude, and you can definitely feel like there is a racial insensitivity and undertone here at the bare bones minimum. So yes, you absolutely do see it where they're supposed to be more professional and you know, in that type of crisis. Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
I didn't see
any of that. It's humanitarian assistance supposed to be.
He didn't do it. This guy I saw that was yelling out didn't do any of that, right? And so basically, but the thing is, this guy was a jerk to the Ukrainians too, which didn't help. But as far as the other reports of what I saw early on, the reports of the border guards kind of kicking folks and being rude, yeah, that happened. And in fact, there were Ukrainian lawmakers who spoke out against it and apologized, acknowledged it, and said that this should not happen. We apologize and we're going to work to improve it. So yeah, it absolutely happened, but it's also not out of the ordinary because this type of racism has existed in this region as it is across the world. And so anytime you have these type of refugee crises taking place, we're the people who are going to get pinched and screwed over and going to be discriminated against. And so a lot of it too is, again, I'm still trying to learn, but I don't think that it matters about what your visa status is or anything like that. Because again, I take for granted that because I'm American, I'm just used to being able to go anywhere I want without a visa.
Right.
Just being straight up with you. And so even when I was in that line with this family, I didn't have any preconceived notions that people were going to treat me differently because all I had to do was pull out my passport.
Right. You knew you were going through, period.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And so, but when you look back and think about it, you think about how unfair it is.
Yeah.
Because we all look the same.
Yeah.
We all come from the same origin. The only difference is my passport. You don't know if I'm African or not.
Yeah.
And so basically, I'll tell you the big irony of all of this. My contact on the other side of the border, the Slovak border, his name was Shane. So Shane was the side on the on the EU border. It's like, okay, once this family gets here, we're going to take care of them. Cool. So meanwhile, I'm in the line. So Andre has to sit in the car. He can't go because, again, he's within draft age.
Yeah.
So it's the black dude from Brooklyn, originally from Detroit, that's taking this kind of white family to freedom, or to the promised land, right? So, because their whole thing is, Terrell, you're not going to leave us. You're not going to leave us. You're not going to go, are you? I'm like, no, I'm be right here. We get to the border, blah, blah, blah. Get on the bus, get to the Slovak border. I hand the family over to Shane, who is a black man from Britain.
You sojourner truth.
I mean, but think about this, right? So a black man picked his family up.
Yes.
Took them across the border.
Yes.
And then handed them over to another black man. And so here's the irony of it. So we are both descendants of people where the countries enslaved us.
Yeah, reversals. Yeah, it's a complete reversal.
That's the whole thing. Because that's the whole thing. He's from Britain, slavery. America, slavery.
Yep.
And so we're taking this kind of white family across. Yep. And that's all. And he was there, and he was like, he's their primary point person over there. So it's like this family had two intersections with black people that they needed to get them to Europe.
Yes. Somebody in feed said, "Come on, Harriet, you are all those things." I mean,
You know,
constantly, for real.
but here's the jacked up thing, right? It's like, when you're in this, people ask me about how I got here, and I'll tell you, because you're a believer just like me. It's like my first three international trips when I went to a historically black college from Landers Smith, Little Rock, Arkansas, and my first three trips, Senegal, Haiti, and Russia, they were all funded by the United Methodist Church.
Mm.
So, so I always had, and even though it wasn't a proselytizing type of program, but they
But
were
it was
funded by the church.
evangelism. But it was evangelism.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. So I've always had a faith-based approach to what I do. And
Mm-hmm.
so my journalism and my writing has always been inspired by my following of Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And I've always, and now I attend a church in Brooklyn, New York, Concord Baptist Church of Christ. And we study, the theology is Black liberation theology.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Who's your pastor?
I'm
You
James.
can't tell your church and not tell your pastor.
Of course. Okay. Pastor Gary V. Simpson, where he is my pastor. Oh yeah, we always got to do that, right? And so basically, he sends me scripture every day. You know, and so basically, because I tell people, hey, listen, the best thing you do, send me some scripture, and I, go through it like that. But basically, when people ask me why I'm here, I tell them that I feel like it's my mission. This is mission work for me, because there is no way that a Black guy who was born and raised in the biggest Black city in America, went to a Black school. I had no interest in whiteness whatsoever, being around white people. Like, I'll tell you, like, I had this very, I still do, I'm very proud of who I am as a Black person. And I just love my Black existence, had no interest in being around anything else but that. But then I got this first experience to Russia, and then it just went on from there, of course. And so I don't think I think the only reason why I am here, and like why it makes sense, is that it's mission bound, because it had nothing to do with me. If it was for me, I wouldn't be here. And so, so this is something, I mean, really, it wasn't like if it were up to me to pick, I wouldn't pick here. Yeah. And so I feel like this is a God's mission, and I'm still trying to figure out what it is. Because I mean, I feel like I'm very comfortable here, and so I feel like I belong here, and that's why I do what I do. And I don't. So it was never a doubt in my mind. A brother from the local news station in Detroit, he asked me, "So, bro, you could have left," and I said, "No, I couldn't, because
not the assignment.
That's not the assignment. The assignment is to be here." And so when I tell people that, they understand. And so I didn't have a choice. The assignment was to be here, and I knew that God would provide. And that's why I ask people, with the number one thing that people ask, say, "What do you need?" I need prayers, because to be honest with you, there's some moments where you're just frightened, because it's a war, and this level of violence just should not be a part of the human story. This is a breakdown in humanity, is what this is. This is really what it comes down to from a human standpoint. This is humanity failing. There should be no circumstance where a conflict, where in Putin, because it wasn't a conflict, this is just a bully, And I'm keeping our sister Brittany Reiner in prayers.
Yes.
And I'll tell you something briefly about that, because I think that you would appreciate this as a lawyer. But I'm gonna finish this point. But I think Jesus Christ, I mean, that's the number one reason why I'm here. And when you see me writing about this passion about Ukrainians and things like that, in a way, I hope that I'm a model of me being who I am, and being Black as being Black, that people will see this is how you treat people. This is how you report on people with respect and dignity. And regardless of whatever the things that I've faced, the racism I face, I would never stereotype a whole group of people based on one experience. And I want people to give us, as Black people, the same respect. And that's the reason why I use a lot of voice in my messaging, in my reporting, because I do have a message for people. because that's what the mission is, which makes me different from the other journalists because that's not their mission, it's mine.
Well, I want to hear whatever you can share about Brittany, but I want to say right here for a second, because when you said that, that war really should not be a part of the human experience, I see so many ways, though, in it that God has allowed you to be a witness of what humanity is in an inhumane experience. And you also have been the beneficiary of that, because I can't tell you, I could have cried 5 rivers watching you post when the young man welcomed you all in the home and cooked that great meal with the ossobuco. I mean, that blew my mind. That it for real was not just the Samaritan who was welcoming in. It wasn't just the woman with the widow's mite who was using it and it multiplied, but he was using his own hands and making something. I feel like I could smell it through the Twitter. And I was like, thank God our prayers, first of all, are being answered, because there's so many prayers covering you, but also it's a witness of mutual humanity, because that was such a beautiful story. I hope you're recording every last bit of it.
I am. So that's Andre, the guy that cooked the food. Actually, he's downstairs now. So he is the co-owner of, so he's the guy that's been doing all the driving. And so he's the co-owner of a school, a language school that I attend. So, because I'm still taking Russian language classes now. And so this summer is interesting. I'm coming back to take Ukrainian language classes at his school, but I'm doing it virtually. I'm going to be in this region, the Western Ukrainian mountains, like in the foothills. And but I'm also going to be continue the humanitarian efforts, because even if there's hopefully officially the war will end, there's going to be so many humanitarian needs that are going to take place. So in addition to me taking my Ukrainian classes in Western Ukraine, I'm going to be contributing and supporting people here who still need help. So I'm going to come back home in April, first week of April. The University of Illinois, here's another thing, Monique, like the University of Illinois, like the people at the chancellor level, like the chancellor of Illinois wants to honor me at the campus, and it's surreal to me, and I never thought that this would happen. I wasn't looking for that. I'm still trying to process it, because I guess I'm in it, and my whole thing is I'm just trying to help people. I ain't think it's a big deal. But anyway, so you have so many people like Andre who are just, again, he's a teacher who is basically saying, okay, my country's in this war. I'm going to do everything I can to help. And that's the whole thing. Like, we're all keeping each other like together and supporting us. And so and Ukraine is full of those stories. And that's the Ukraine that I want everybody to know about, because I feel like it's my mission, But I want to tell you something about Brittany, right? So here's a fundamental thing. I'll tell you, as somebody who stays this region, I'll tell you why I'm annoyed at this situation. First of all, there's very little that we know about what's happening with her. I mean, we saw the mugshot and all this, but like, we legitimately don't know the details of what's happening. We know what she's been accused of.
Right.
What I can tell you, what is consistent with how Russia rolls, is that I think it's a BS charge. I'm 99% certain that it is, right? Because what they do is that they take like Americans like her. Again, you can make an argument that she's the best WNBA player in the league.
Yep.
She had no business. Okay, listen, Monique, she had no business playing for Russia because it's a national security risk, right? So if the NBA screwed up in that regard, and she went over because of money, that's dangerous. If I were an NBA executive, none of my players will play in Russia. And if you need the money, and forget the finances, forget the revenue thing. This is a national security issue. Now, from a political standpoint, she's a headache for the White House, or she should be, because people should care enough about her. But that's the whole thing. I mean, she should be a headache, right? But I don't think that people are really generating enough attention on her. But the fundamental problem lies in the NBA allowing their players to play in Russia to begin with. No one should play in Russia.
And I didn't
Period.
even understand, like, the rest of them, she wasn't the only one, but the rest of them had already gotten out. There's just a lot of it that doesn't make sense.
No, that's the whole thing. That's what I'm speculating. We don't know. I'm just telling you what is consistent with how Russia handles those things. She is a top player. They know it. And so what Russia usually does is they take these type of players, make up trumped up charges, and use them as political bargaining tools.
Yeah, and they did this like 2 weeks before they executed on the so-called conflict. So they clearly just were weaving it into their strategy.
But that's what they do. And again, why was she there? That's what forget about. That's the fundamental thing. So the NBA needs to make rules that ensure that if you need to go to a hostile environment, because Russia was a hostile environment. Listen, there are Russians that want to escape Russia. Why in the world would you send Brittany Griner there? Why?
Yeah, you're so right. So I hadn't even heard it raised in that manner, because they are not allies. They are enemies.
No.
And long-standing enemies. And I mean, our athletes have agency, you know, as free-willed people, but the NBA does sign off on where they play in their off season. So you make a valid point that I had.
You know, it's just bonkers to me. If I'm thinking about this, you know, and that's why I'm like really irritated with the NBA, because for one, I understand she did it for, you know, possibly it's like, because, you know, the Russians pay, right? And so there needs to be something in the future to ensure that people who are going into these hostile countries, that their money is supplemented so they won't risk their safety. Because, you know, and another thing too, she's queer from my understanding. You know, she's queer from my understanding. Yeah. That's not a queer friendly place.
No.
I'm not.
No.
I'm not saying that Russia. I'm not saying that we as a. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that America is all that in that regard, but it isn't. But we do have. And listen, you're a lawyer. I mean, we do have systems through which we can advocate. They don't listen. They have rules in Russia for protesting, and they throw you in jail for doing so. Okay. Yeah. I'm just so. But anyway, I'm going to end it there. But I'm just one like it's a national security issue, and it made no sense when I first heard it. My first thought was, what is she doing there?
Absolutely.
Who thought that was a good idea for them to play?
Yeah, not a good idea at all. Okay, my very last question, because people are asking, do you have a sense of where we are on this war? We see things every day that the Ukrainians still have the advantage. They're holding off this long caravan, and then we hear other things that they're making headway in certain cities. Like, where are we?
Yeah, so where we are is, first I'll give you an estimate of deaths. So the Ukrainian military estimates that 12,000 Russians, Ukrainians killed 12,000 Russians. The United States intelligence says it's half of that, roughly 6,000. I would be willing to agree with the Ukrainian side a bit on this. A lot of people, so what's happening right now is, this is a conventional war, and what's happening, so the Russians just have more ground troops. Many of these people are conscripts, they're not professional soldiers. Mm-hmm. And so what's happening is that the Ukrainians are ambushing these convoys, and they're giving up immediately because the Russians presume that they would be greeted as liberators. We've heard that before, right? And so they'll be greeted as liberators, and they did not expect the people to be incredibly as hostile as they were, right. And they are. And also the Ukrainians military has been superb, and so they've shot down hundreds of missiles entering, larger cities. Kiev is intact because they have a good interceptor system hitting the missiles. But then also you have a lot of these conscripts who are just giving up and throwing their arms down because, listen, the Ukrainians have the morale because they are here to defend their country, and so these Russians are just being sent down. And many of them, if you look at like the Russian language, like Telegram pages, etc., they are being told that these Russians are being told that they came here for exercises, not an actual war.
Yeah.
Right. But here's the thing. But here's the thing. Given how much propaganda is spread in Russia and how little information they get from the West and from objective sources, I can believe that they thought that.
Oh,
Now,
absolutely.
they coming down.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. These Ukrainians are like, this is a war and we're going to slaughter you. And so you literally see bodies on the ground and they're just leaving them there,
Yeah.
just like examples. And so basically that's been successful. And also the Russians have been planning, like it was poorly planned out because the Russians didn't talk to their senior level military, their FSB people, their intelligence people who would have told them that this was a bad idea. And so basically,
maybe he didn't care. It doesn't seem like Putin. It seems he takes his own counsel and nobody else's.
Yeah, that's correct, right? And so what's happening, like how a caravan works, and so you're going down one road, relatively smooth, and so if you're expected to be like quote unquote liberate or take over a city occupied in 3 days, which was stupid because that wasn't going to happen. They can surround it, but they're not going to take it. So you have food and you have like maintenance plans for 3 days, let's say 4 days. Now, when you go beyond that period, you've run out of food and you're hungry. And so basically you literally have to go into cities and loot, which is what they're doing. And so you're breaking off. So basically you're just breaking off your whole attack dynamic. And that puts the Ukrainians at an advantage. And the reason why the majority of these Russians aren't dead is that there are not enough Ukrainians to kill them. I mean, I know that sounds very kind of graphic, whatever, but that's what it is, right? And so they're no match for the Ukrainians in regards to their grit and their morale. It's just too many Russians. And so when you see the dynamic changing from day to day, it's simply because the Russians have enough military hardware. The reason why it's lasted this long, it primarily is because of the civilian resistance. You have 100,000 people who've taken up arms. People, ragtag groups of people who are taking off Kalashnikovs and fighting. And then what little Ukraine has in anti-aircraft defenses are working. And the Ukraine and the EU and the United States are sending what you've heard this word javelin, right? Javelin missile.
Okay, it's since the impeachment we've been hearing it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's very simple, right? So you can basically teach someone how to use this device in a few days. It's real easy to use. Once you launch it, it does all of the work, right? And so what it does is that it stops tank offensives, which is very key because when you're coming in with a convoy, you're coming in with tanks and armored vehicles, right? And your tanks are the main conduit. But if you're busting those open and you're just coming with javelins everywhere, that puts you at a unique advantage to defend yourself. And then you have stingers. So I don't know if people saw this movie with Tom Hanks played this U.S. He played this U.S. congressman in the 1980s who was funding the Mujahideen. Mm-hmm. And there was a scene in the where he was where the guy had a rocket over his shoulder and just shooting into the air and just knocking off these helicopters. Basically, that's what the Ukrainians have, right? And so they're winning, and so they're using these very mobile, very simple devices. Now, if you're talking about other anti-aircraft, platforms, stuff that takes a few months to work, that doesn't work. But as long as you keep sending javelins in and these stingers that are really easy to use, you can get a civilian to know how to use it. Like somebody could teach you how to use a javelin, Monique. It's not that hard.
People are just filling in and saying they said Charlie's War, but it's Charlie Wilson's war. And my first job on the Hill was working for Congressman Charlie Wilson's second congressional.
Really? What a coincidence!
Out of Texas, so I can tell you, I got stories.
Right. Well, right. So, but I'm saying, but that's the similar dynamic, right? And so they're not those, and that's the reason why they're not complicated to use.
Yep.
And now they're even more sophisticated because they're heat sensitive, and so basically, the missile does all the work, and all you gotta do is reload and move someplace else, and that's how they're winning. And the Russians just assume that the Ukrainians are going to bow down, and they just have a second thing coming. But here's another key thing that's happening that people are not paying attention to: war is expensive, and you're going to finance it. And given the fact that everybody and their mama is pulling out of Russia from a business point of view, how are you going to finance this war long term? Because you're essentially, you basically are getting a junk rating from all the credit agencies. And so that's the thing with America. The only reason why America was able to sustain this war, these ridiculous wars in Afghanistan for as long as they did in Iraq, was because it's the big capitalist machine and you just keep pumping money into it. Russia doesn't have that. They don't have that. And so and so that's going to be a bigger problem for them. And so the question now with Putin is, so ultimately, when will this war end? It depends on Putin, or, there are a number of scenarios right now. What's going to happen is that the people who are going to make this decision are not Putin, it's the Russian people. And so I can tell you, I do a lot of man on the street interviews I post on my social media, and Ukrainians not only hate Putin, they hate Russian. They despise Russian culture.
Right.
Like the cultural framework right now, because I sent a I tweeted a message that I got from a Russian that I met a few years ago. Interestingly enough, a Black Russian, right? Mm-hmm. So I was just posting what this person said, saying, "Oh, it's hell here. I'm trying to leave. Can you marry me?" Like, she was joking, but she was like kind of for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I'm just trying to get out. And all I did was I just put up what she was saying, just talking about what the Russians are feeling inside. My Ukrainian friends were like, "F them, screw them. I don't care about them MF and slaves, them MF and whatever." I'm like, oh, okay, it's real out here, right? And so so basically the Ukrainians look at them as just being a bunch of brainwashed people. And I'm not trying to generalize, but I'm just trying to give you the heat and the energy of what I'm hearing. And I've traveled across.
Right, and they don't see them as blameless at all. And I saw what you posted earlier today, about the 74 million of us here in these United States who voted for that certified fool. They're not blameless. Yeah. They may have been brainwashed, but they are not blameless. And the comparisons stand. They certainly do.
And so basically the Ukrainians are looking at them like, because I had a good friend of mine, she DM'd me, like my real close friend, Ukrainian woman. She says, "Your tweet made me sad. F them. They created this monster." So what I'm telling you is that there's no sympathy here. They don't care at all. And so their whole thing is, if you get down into the bowels of your existence, then maybe you will fight and do something about it. Because the Ukrainian attitude towards Russians is that we die for our freedom. When are you going to die? When are you going to be willing to die for yours?
Right.
And
they're conditioned to not being free. They don't seem to have the will at all.
You know what's interesting? I get a lot. So another thing too, I get into it with a lot of Russians in particular when I bring that up. Because I talk a lot about race in Russia, because I think Putin is one of the biggest racists on earth. And I've said that he is. Like he is. Like he's a Russian version of Trump, but a little bit worse, right? And so there is a worse. And so because he's a totalitarian, because he went from authoritarian to totalitarian in 1 week, right?
Yeah.
Because because he was authoritarian before. Totalitarian is when you're just shutting down all forms of free media, saying, just cutting off people's flows of traffic. Because even in authoritarian places, you can have flows of movement. In totalitarianism, you're cutting that down severely, right? And so the attitude in Ukraine is, I was going to make that point. I get into it with some Russians, particularly in the think tank world. And my whole thing is, you know what? As Black people, we died for our liberation. We have a history of it. The Haitians have a history of it with their own country. Right. When they kicked the French out, like you don't have that where your people in your society have collectively said, we're going to freaking die.
We've died for
and that's
ours
what
and for others. For
and
ours
that's the whole thing.
and for others.
And so here's the thing. So in addition to me doing this work, I constantly remind people that the country that you Ukrainians and you Russians are coming to for help is the same country in which I walk down the street and the wrong police officer feels something, I'm gone.
Yes, sir.
Whereas with you come over to America, you're a refugee, but you're white now. And
yes,
that
sir.
gives you a little bit, that gives you the complexion for the protection that I will never have.
Yes,
and
sir.
So,
and that's the dichotomy, because you just gave us that example. You as a Black American doing a Harriet Tubman, passing off to a Black British man, transitioning these white people to safety. But the minute they transition to these states, they are in a higher, safer position as a refugee than either of you would be as Black men in America. And that's just real.
And I remind them of that all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all.
Because the thing is, I remind them of that all the time. And so I'm that Black, because here's the thing, most of my friends, a lot of these people that went to the States got educated, but I am the first Black person that they've had a legitimate conversation with, right? Because another thing too, what's interesting about being Black in this part of the world, I feel like you run into one type of Black, a couple types of Black people, and I know we're diverse and all that, but come on, Monique. Like, so basically, I mean, I'm just saying, right? So you run into Black people who are like me and who are like you. We just happen to focus, like I just happen to focus on something that Black folk don't traditionally do, right? But then you got the other Black people who don't have a racial context and don't have the analysis, and you just pray that the Ukrainians don't run into them. Because I'm telling you, like, there's some people who aren't like me. They don't care to talk about these issues of race. And listen, that's fine, but don't misrepresent us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
That's all I'm saying. Don't misrepresent. Like, if you're somebody that focuses on energy or agriculture and you just want to do that, cool, more power to you. But
right. That's fine, but don't try to dress down these facts. Just because you don't feel like it, I'm not gonna make you, but don't try to change them. We don't have to agree on some facts. You can go your merry way. I'm not gonna pull you in, but don't try to change this conversation we're having is where it is. And I so appreciate it. I know that everybody who's in the feed appreciates it, and we've been on for an hour. So I am going to let them go back to lunch because they're probably not even supposed to be watching right now. Everybody's supposed to be working.
I like talking to you. I mean, we can keep this going. We can keep this going. Like, I'll come on again.
I need these check-ins, and I just think the richness of what you are able to share with us on so many different levels, and that's why I wanted to do this. We take the time. These aren't 7-minute hits. These aren't segments. These are conversations. These are discussions where we can really dig in and people can leave, hopefully, if not with a changed mind, then with a new perspective. And you certainly have given us that today. So please tell them where they can follow you. And if there's any marching orders, any instructions for things we can do over here in our so-called ivory tower, tell us what we can do.
Hey, thank you. So first of all, I want to thank you, Monique Pressley, my favorite lawyer, and my lawyer who, once I get the big bucks, I'm gonna get you on that return. I like you as a person, but again, I need killers on the team, and you there. I mean, I just think that we need to, when we are alive and well, just be thankful to be in each other's presence. I mean, I feel honored that you thought that I was somebody interesting enough to interview. I really do. I mean, somebody like yourself reaching out to me and taking your time with me, it just makes me feel good as a human being that somebody like yourself thinks that I'm worthy of that time, and I'm grateful to you, and thank you so much. Another thing is in regards to support, number one thing, I want prayers. I am a believer. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. But also, if you're not I'm also an open-minded person. If you're not a follower of Jesus Christ, if you have some type of faith or whatever your God is or isn't, just spirituality, whatever, put that in for me. But so send me whatever is in the Torah, send me what is in the Quran, whatever that message is. I'm open to that. Particularly, I'm a believer. I'm Christian. And so please send me those prayers. That's the number one thing I want. But also, I'm an independent journalist if you believe in my work. And because in addition to being a journalist, I do humanitarian work. So please go to my Twitter, Terrell J. Starr, the same as my Instagram. Go to Twitter and you can find on a pinned tweet that has links to ways that you can donate or contribute, because it's not donation per se because I'm actually working. But also, I will be doing more work on Instagram. I am, please follow me on Instagram. I'll be launching a couple of businesses. I can talk to you about that next time. Doing tourism in a fashion business. It's based on this part of the world. I'll talk to you about that in the DMs, Monique.
Okay.
But also too, if you are a professor, if you're at the HBCU and the institutions, I'm trying to assist African students. Maybe I'm trying to figure out ways that since they can't study here, they can get to the States or elsewhere.
All the bison are on here. I don't know if you see it in this feed, but I rep for the HU, so they're
okay. There you go. So listen, yeah. So I'm trying to figure out ways to get these brothers and sisters, our people, over here. I just want them to know that our people care about them. And so please DM me in either IG and Twitter, because I want to figure out ways to support our brothers and sisters over here who are escaping this war. And so, yeah, if you do that, those three things will be great for me. I would really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Terrell. I will talk to you again very, very soon. We so appreciate you, and we're sending all the prayers for your safety, for your peace of mind, and for your continued success on your journey. And holler if you need us in any way at all.
Yes, ma'am. I'll do that. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye. I hope that you have enjoyed what you heard today. You're not going to get this anywhere else. People for real are trying to get what they can get from Terrell and not taking the time to hear the brother. And they say on Twitter, anytime he shares of his experience, he's criticized for it. And that's just not what we do. We care about the people who are feeding us. We want to feed, and we want to give them the respect that they deserve to care about their experience, because it's a shared experience. It's shared humanity. So I am thankful to you for hanging all this time. If this is your first time coming to Make It Make Sense, please come back. I'm here weekdays, Monday through Friday, live at noon Eastern Standard Time. I wish I could say that this was our best show. It's not. It's competitive, but we have good stuff every single day from every kind of area you could think of, whether it's wealth management or police misconduct, which obviously is a sweet spot, a knowledge base of mine. We have talked about mental health. We're talking about physical health. We're giving updates on COVID. You name it. If it matters, we are talking about it. You can catch it here. And then everybody who keeps saying, will you save it? Will you save it? Absolutely. Wouldn't think of not saving it. It will be posted on my Instagram feed. It will be posted on my Facebook page, facebook.com/I am Monique Pressley. And it will be on my YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed, now is the time, because soon, very soon, the only place you'll be able to find the full shows is on my YouTube channel, and that's Monique Pressley TV. So go subscribe now. Our editors do great things, make it look like a fancy TV show, and then bring it back out to you. So if you'd like to support this work, you can do so at the link tree in my bio. My Cash App is $MoPress, PRESS. And you can do business PayPal. You can subscribe on Patreon. It's lots of different ways. It's all at the link tree in my bio. This is all free to you, but not free for me, not free for us. We have a team, and we're working to bring you more and more of what you got today and doing better and better job of it. Our desire is to be of service and to make it make sense. I hope that on a lot of levels, more things make sense to you today about our experiences as Black people abroad, about the war in Ukraine, about relations between Ukraine and Russia and the United States. We cover so many different things. I can't name them all, but please share when I post it. Share it with those who you want to get this information. And if there's anything you learned that you want to share, share it on Twitter. Tag me, tag Terrell, and hashtag Make It Make Sense. Okay? Thank you so, so, so very much for joining. I will see you here again live noon tomorrow. Bye-bye.